The storm above Vega 9 never stopped. Red lightning cracked across the sky like broken glass. Thick black clouds hung low over the ruined battlefield. The smell of burnt metal and rotting flesh choked the air. War had come again, but this time, it wasn't between two alien races, it was between the Earth Federation and the Xerelians. For years, the two sides had fought with machines, never facing each other directly. But something had changed. Now boots hit the ground. Blood was spilled. And prisoners were taken. Sergeant Luke Reeve, a human soldier with a sharp jaw and tired eyes, stood in the middle of a half-collapsed bunker. His armor was dented, a cut. Above his eyebrow still leaked blood. He stared at the small glowing tablet in his hand. Orders were clear. Form temporary alliances with captured Xerelians for the mission. No choice. No appeal. High Command's words were final. He looked up. As the metal door hissed open, two guards pushed in a figure wrapped in a heavy collar and wrist chains. Her skin shimmered like night blue glass. Her long dark hair stuck to her face. Silver eyes burned with cold hatred. She was a Xerelian elite, a warrior caste. The guards threw her onto the floor and left. Luke stared at her, but she didn't flinch. She met his gaze with one of her own, filled with disgust. "Your new partner," said a voice over the comms. "You two will infiltrate Grid Sector Delta and retrieve the fusion core before the enemy does. If one of you fails, both die. Understood?" Luke didn't respond. Neither did the alien girl. The voice clicked off. He finally spoke. "What's your name?" She spat on the floor. "You don't deserve to know." He clenched his jaw. "Fine, then I'll call you Chains." She bared her teeth like a wild animal. "Touch me, human, and I'll rip your arms off." He walked over slowly. Noted. Outside, the wind howled. Their ride arrived, a small dropcraft piloted by a silent drone. They climbed aboard, sitting on opposite ends, refusing to look at each other. The silence between them was thick. As the ship took off, Luke reviewed the mission. Grid Sector Delta was deep inside the old neutral zone. The place had been abandoned after a massive bioweapon strike 2 years ago. Rumors said. Strange things still crawled there. Things left behind that didn't die easily. As the dropcraft passed through the black clouds, turbulence hit hard. The ship shook. A warning light flashed. Then the engine burst into flame. Luke jumped from his seat, grabbed the alien girl, and forced open the rear hatch. "What are you doing?" She screamed. "We'll crash. Grab the chute pack." "I don't trust you. Then die here." She growled but obeyed, pulling the emergency chute from the wall. Together, they leaped into the storm. The wind ripped at them. Flashes of red. Lightning lit up her face as they fell. Luke counted seconds in his head before pulling the chute. It opened roughly, and the two of them crashed through dead trees and landed hard. He groaned as he rolled over, coughing. She lay a few feet away, groaning too. "We're alive," he muttered. "For now," she answered coldly. They looked around. The forest was filled with fog, dark shapes moving in the mist. Shadows crawled across the ground, not matching the shape of any tree or beast. Luke held up his scanner. "No signal. We'll have to make it to the grid sector on foot." The alien girl stood. "Stay out of my way." "You stay out of mine." They started walking silent, angry, both wounded, both full of hate. But something hunted them in. The forest. Something that fed on war, on metal, and maybe on flesh. An hour passed. Then two strange clicking noises followed them. A scream echoed far behind. Not human. Not alien. Something else. "We're not alone," Luke said. "I know," she replied, stopping. They both turned slowly. The fog split. A tall, twisted shape rose from the ground. It looked like a machine melted with bone, 6 legs, red eyes, drills for hands. The alien girl hissed. "Bio-wraith." Luke pulled his blaster. "Run or fight?" She bared her claws. "Fight." They stood back to back. She moved fast, spinning low, slicing the creature's legs. Luke shot its eyes. It screeched and exploded into pieces. They both breathed hard, back still touching. He turned. "You're fast." She looked him up and down. "You're not completely useless." A spark passed between them. But it was cold and sharp like a blade. Not trust, not yet. They walked again, slower now, watching each other with different eyes. For now they were enemies. But something deeper had begun. Something neither of them expected, and they still had a long mission ahead. The ground under their boots was soft with ash. Trees stood like black skeletons, lifeless and cracked. The fog had thinned, but a strange hum vibrated through the air, like the world itself was whispering, "Luke." And the alien girl didn't speak much after the fight. Their bodies were bruised, clothes torn, but their senses stayed sharp. Every branch snap made them turn. Every shadow looked dangerous. After 2 hours of walking through dead terrain, Luke stopped and raised his hand. Down. The alien girl crouched beside him without question, her instincts as fast as his. She smelled the air. Something's near. Luke peeked over a fallen log. 4 patrol drones hovered just ahead, scanning the area with red beams. Xerelian drones, her people. Luke turned to her. "Can you shut them down?" She shook her head. "I was cast out. My code access was removed. If I go near them, they'll attack me too." "Great," Luke muttered. He studied the pattern of their movement. The drones flew in a circle, pausing at each corner of a large square field, guarding something. In the center of that field was a small tower, damaged, but still glowing faint blue. A backup relay. "If I reach that tower, I might be able to call for a supply drone," Luke said. "It could drop weapons, medkits, or even a transport." "It's risky," she said. He smirked. "Everything out here is." She didn't stop him. She just watched as he crouched low and moved through the grass, timed perfectly between the red beams. Halfway there, a drone shifted too fast. The alarm beeped. "Move!" She shouted. Blaster fire rained down from above. Luke rolled behind a concrete slab, bullets tearing up the ground around him. One shot scraped his leg, drawing blood. The alien girl jumped from her hiding place. She sprinted forward like lightning, spinning through the beams. She slashed at a drone with her claws. Sparks flying. It crashed to the ground in pieces. 2 more turned on her. Luke groaned, forced himself up, and aimed his blaster. He shot 1 drone in the sensor, then dove behind the tower. The last drone screeched and fired wildly before she leaped up and ripped its core out with a hiss. Silence returned. Both of them were panting. Smoke rose from the destroyed drones. The relay tower buzzed faintly. Luke leaned against it and opened the panel. His hands shook as he typed the code into his datapad, syncing with the old Earth Federation system. A green light blinked. "Got. Its signal's weak, but I've sent for a supply drop. Let's hope it arrives," she muttered. She tore part of her cloak and knelt beside him. To his surprise, she pressed the cloth to his bleeding leg. He stared. "Helping me now? You bleed slower when patched." "It's just logic," she said coldly, but her touch was gentle. He smirked. "You've got strange logic." She didn't answer. Instead, she stood and scanned the trees. "We should find shelter. If they sent those drones, others may come." They moved again, deeper into the woods. The terrain began to slope down, the air cooler and thicker. They found a half-buried bunker under a hill. Its entrance cracked open like a rusted mouth. Inside it smelled of oil and damp stone. Dust covered the floor, but it was dry and hidden. Safe for now. They lit a small emergency lamp and sat across from each other, neither one speaking for a long time. Their eyes met in the low glow, tired, wary, but something else was growing beneath that. Luke finally asked, Why did your people start the war again? Her jaw tensed. We didn't. Your kind moved too close to our stars, claimed planets too rich in life. We warned. You ignored. Luke exhaled. Same story, different sides. She studied him. Have you ever lost someone to war? He nodded. My brother, first wave. Burned with his ship before he ever touched the ground. She nodded back slowly. My sister. Crushed when the mines fell, buried under your steel. Their voices were quiet now. Not angry, just broken. Then something changed in the air. A sound above, faint like whirring. A shadow passed over the hill. Luke jumped up, rushed outside. A small shape dropped from the sky metal crate. His signal had worked. He opened the crate fast. 2 rifles, 3 medkits, food packs, and 1 high-voltage shock grenade. He brought them inside. The alien girl looked at the supplies, then back at him. We may survive this, she said. Yeah. He replied, but not if we still hate each other. She stared at him for a long time. I don't hate you, she whispered. Not anymore. Luke blinked. I just don't trust you yet. He nodded. That's fair. They sat closer now, not touching. Not yet. But the silence between them no longer felt like a wall. It felt like something soft, almost warm. Outside, another storm rolled in. But inside the bunker, 2 enemies had taken their first step toward something far more dangerous than war. Understanding. Rain hammered the bunker roof like fists from the sky. The 2 of them stayed quiet inside, sitting against opposite walls. The flickering lamp threw their shadows across cracked concrete. The air smelled of old metal and war dust. Luke cleaned his rifle while watching her from the corner of his eye. She had removed her shoulder armor and now sharpened her claw-like blades with a small blue crystal. Her focus was sharp, precise like a weapon in motion. He cleared his throat. You never told me your name. She didn't look up. You didn't earn it. You saved my life back there. She paused. You saved mine first. Then maybe we're even. Still, she said nothing. He leaned back against the wall. When this mission's over, what happens to us? Her head turned slightly. We go back to our sides. We return to war. You go back to calling me enemy. I go back to killing. Humans. Luke stared at her, frustrated. Is that what you want? She looked him in the eye for the first time in hours. No, but want doesn't matter in war. A silence fell again, heavy, but not cold this time. Like the kind of silence before something real begins. Suddenly, a sound broke the moment. A sharp clicking noise echoed outside the bunker door. Luke stood up fast, rifle in hand. She rose. 2 eyes glowing slightly in the dim light. Motion scanner, Luke whispered, checking his wristband. 1 life form. Close. He crept to the bunker entrance and pushed the door open slowly. A figure limped through the rain, tall, insectoid. Covered in armor made of thorns and metal. Not a Zerelian. Not human. A third force. She stepped beside him. I know that type. We're class hunter. It eats energy. That's why it came here. The crate's power cell drew it. Can we kill it? We can try, she said. The weir moved fast, lunging toward the doorway with a scream that sounded like a blade scraping bone. Luke rolled to the side, firing. She jumped straight into the air and landed behind the creature, slashing with both claws. Sparks flew. The weir's tendrils lashed out. One wrapped around her waist, lifted her, and slammed her into the wall. She cried out. Stunned. Luke shouted her name without thinking, only to realize he didn't know it. She recovered and kicked the creature in its midsection, causing it to release her. Luke aimed and fired at its head, knocking it back. But it wasn't enough. The weir charged again. Use the shock grenade. She yelled. Luke pulled the grenade from his belt, pressed the button, and tossed it under the creature's legs. Boom. A bright blue flash filled the bunker, throwing both of them against the walls. When the light faded, the weir lay smoking, twitching. And then still, Luke groaned, his ears ringing. He turned to her. "You all right?" She nodded, breathing hard. "Barely." He crawled toward her, helping her sit up. Her face was cut, her arm bleeding. "I'll wrap it," he said. She didn't stop him this time, as he cleaned and tied the cloth around her wound. She watched him closely. "You yelled for me," she sighed. "Yeah," answered. "Didn't want you dying before I learned your name." Her lips moved slightly. A small, reluctant smile. "Tari," he blinked. "What?" "My name is Tari," Luke smiled back. "Nice to meet you, Tari. I'm Luke." "I know," she said. "You talk in your sleep." His cheeks flushed a little, but he laughed. They stayed like that for a moment, just two warriors sharing warmth in a cold, violent world. The fire between them wasn't hate anymore. It was something changing. Something dangerous in a different way. Later, they buried the weir's body outside the bunker, using broken shields as shovels. Not out of honor, but because predators would come if the smell remained. When they returned inside, Luke checked the map. "We're less than 3 clicks from the fusion core site." Tari nodded. "We move at first light." He looked at her. "What happens if we both make it out alive?" She met his eyes. "Then I'll decide if I still want to kill you," Luke chuckled. Fair, but as the night wore on, neither of them slept. They just lay close, sharing the warmth of a ration heater between them, their bodies slowly inching nearer. Enemies? Not anymore. Strangers? Not quite. Something had begun, quietly in the dark. Something no one had planned. Something neither of them could stop. Asterisk. Morning came with no sunlight, only dim gray light through thick clouds. Luke stretched his sore limbs, careful not to wake Tari, who slept beside him, curled in her cloak. Her breathing was slow. Peaceful. He looked at her face. Just days ago, she was an enemy. Now he wasn't sure what she was anymore. Tari opened her eyes without warning, her silver gaze locked on his. "You stare too much. You sleep too much," he shot back. She gave a small smirk as she sat up. "It was the first night I wasn't scared of dying." They packed quickly. Luke double-checked the remaining ammo and made sure his injured leg was tightly wrapped. Tari tested her blades, wiped dust from her gloves, and checked the path ahead. "The fusion core facility should be just across the ridge," she said. "But it won't be empty." Luke nodded. "Yeah, the maps show at least one Zarelian platoon in the area, possibly more." Tari lowered her voice. "And if they see me walking beside you, they'll think I'm a traitor. They'll kill us both." He stopped walking. "Then we don't walk in, we sneak in." They moved through the forest silently, hugging the rocky edges of the slope. Tari moved like a shadow, her senses sharp. Luke followed close, trusting her steps. At the ridge's edge, they saw a tall black facility buried half into the cliffside. Vines and moss grew over its walls, but power still hummed underneath. Guard bots patrolled the entrance. 2 gun towers rotated slowly above. "Front door's suicide," Luke muttered. "Tar." I pointed to the side. "There's a water channel under the cliff. My people use it as a waste tunnel, narrow but unguarded." Luke raised a brow. "Lovely. Always wanted to swim in radioactive sludge," she smirked. "Then follow me, soldier." They slid down the side of the ridge and landed behind a pile of broken crates. From there, Tari led the way through thick vines into a wet, foul-smelling tunnel. The walls dripped green water. "Rats or something worse scurried in the dark." Luke gagged. "Smells like someone boiled a corpse." Tari chuckled. "That's the good part. Wait till we reach the chute." After 30 minutes of crawling through slime and rust, they reached the metal grate. Beyond it was a wide storage room, filled with old machinery and stacked crates. Tari sliced the grate open with her claws. They dropped down together, landing behind cover. "No guards." Luke whispered. "Now what?" She pointed toward a large door. That leads to the control chamber. The fusion core should be there. As they crept forward, a sudden voice echoed through the speaker system above them. Unauthorized movement detected. Red lights flashed. Doors slammed shut. Tari spun. They saw us. Luke cursed. No time. Run. They sprinted down a side hallway as alarms blared. Doors opened ahead. Zerelian. Guards poured in. Rifles raised. I jumped forward, yelling in her native tongue. Don't shoot. I'm on a retrieval mission. The guards hesitated, but only for a second. Traitor! One of them shouted. Bullets flew. Luke tackled her behind a pillar. The walls exploded beside them. Tari gritted her teeth. We need to get to the control room. That door on the left. They darted down the hall, taking cover behind corners, returning fire. Luke's blaster overheated. Tari lunged at a guard, slicing his gun arm before kicking another through a glass panel. Blood sprayed. Luke slammed the control room door shut behind them and locked it. Inside, the fusion core hummed, a glowing orb of blue energy floating inside. A magnetic field. They both dropped to their knees, breathing hard. We made it, Luke said, chest rising and falling. Tari nodded, but her eyes were wet. They would have killed me without asking, my own people. He reached out slowly and touched her shoulder. Because you saved a human. She looked up at him. I don't regret it. He didn't move his hand. Their faces were close now. Not because of war, not because of strategy. Just close. Luke, she whispered. Yeah? I'm tired of being the enemy. He leaned in, gently. And for the first time, they kissed. It was soft. Not rushed. Not wild. Just real. When they pulled apart, the alarms still screamed. But something inside both of them had gone quiet. Not hate. Not fear. Just something warm. Luke turned back to the core. Let's finish this. Tari smiled faintly. Together. And this time, they didn't mean just the mission. They meant everything. Luke tapped on the fusion core console while sweat ran down his brow. The blue energy pulses inside the orb were unstable, pulsing too fast. This thing is close to going critical, he muttered. I stood by the door, her claws ready, listening to approaching footsteps. How long until you can remove it? I'm not removing it, Luke replied. If we move it now, the field could collapse. We'll all go up in flames. Her eyes narrowed. Then what? He looked at her. I have to stabilize it first. Buy me 5 minutes. Tari nodded without hesitation. The door burst open, and Zerelian soldiers stormed in. Tari was already moving. She leapt through the air, spinning like a blade. Her claws slashed across a guard's armor. Another fired, grazing her side. She didn't stop. Her movements were fast, wild, deadly. Luke blocked everything else out. He typed in override codes, rerouted energy flow, locked down safety protocols. The core hissed and glowed brighter. Tari ducked under a swing, slammed her foot into one guard's chest, then turned and caught another's wrist before his knife could reach her. Luke kept one eye on the countdown. Almost there. Tari was bleeding now, deep gash on her arm. Still, she fought like she had no pain, no fear. But her strength was fading. One of the soldiers tackled her from behind, pinning her. Luke reacted instantly. He grabbed a wrench, ran forward and struck the attacker in the head. The guard dropped. I looked up, surprised. You left the core? I'm not letting you die for me, he said. Then we both better move fast. More enemies came. They couldn't win this fight forever. Cover me for one last input. Luke shouted, rushing back to the console. He entered the final code. The fusion core glowed once, then dimmed to a stable hum. Done. The blast door at the side hissed open, a failsafe escape route. Go. He yelled. Tari ran to him, grabbed his arm, and they darted through the corridor. The door slammed behind them. Alarms continued, but the core was secured. The facility wouldn't explode. Now they had to get out alive. They reached an upper hallway and burst into a chamber filled with old Earth tech, broken mechs, cracked screens, dried blood. It looked like a war museum no one remembered. Luke slammed the door shut behind them. They'll come through that door in seconds. Tari stumbled, leaning against a wall. She was shaking, wounded badly. He knelt beside her. You're losing. Blood. She gritted her teeth. I'm fine. No, you're not. He tore open a medkit and pressed a coagulant patch to her side. She winced but didn't stop him. He wrapped her arm tightly and used a stim injector. Her breathing steadied. You're good at this. I've had to patch too many teammates. She looked into his eyes. Were they all like me? He paused. None were like you. Her lips trembled slightly. I wasn't supposed to feel this, not toward a human. Luke leaned in closer. And I wasn't supposed to kiss the enemy. A faint smile touched her lips. The door shook. Voices shouted outside. Metal groaned. Tar. I stood slowly. We won't make it out the way we came. Luke scanned the room. His eyes landed on a half-buried mech suit near the corner. It was old, but it looked functional. New plan, he said. I'll wear that suit. I'll blast us a path. She looked at the machine. It's a Titan-class unit. It takes 2 pilots. Luke met her eyes. Then let's pilot it together. They rushed to the suit, pried open its cracked doors, and climbed inside. He took the main controls. She connected to the neural interface from the back seat. Sync. In 3, 2, 1. The mech came to life. Old systems hummed. Lights blinked green. The main door exploded. Soldiers poured in. Luke pressed the trigger. Twin cannons fired. Enemies scattered. Tari used the left arm to slam a chunk of debris into the advancing guards. Dust and smoke filled the room. They charged through the wall, bursting into the open. Air outside. Thunder rolled above them. The earth shook as they stomped forward, side by side, piloting the massive war machine together. Blasters lit the skies. Missiles struck the ground. But inside the cockpit, 2 former enemies were now one mind, one purpose. Their bond no longer just survival. It was something deeper now. Something fragile and powerful. And they were about to risk everything to escape. This held together. The mech thundered across the battlefield, each step shaking the ground. Smoke curled behind it, and fire lit the ruins in the distance. Inside the cockpit, Luke gripped the control sticks, guiding the machine through debris and falling ash. Tari sat behind him, her hands steady on the neural link interface. Enemy. Drone swarm approaching from the east, she said calmly. Luke checked the radar. They really don't want us leaving with that fusion core data. We're carrying more than data now, she replied quietly. We're proof that hate can be undone. He glanced over his shoulder at her. That scares them more than anything. Suddenly, the sky above them darkened as dozens of drones dropped from the clouds like metal vultures. Red lights blinked on every wing. Tari shouted. Deploy anti-air flares now. Luke slammed the button. The mech launched a burst of bright sparks into the sky. Several drones spun out of control, crashing into the trees. But more replaced them. One drone latched onto the mech's leg, drilling into the armor. Another struck the cockpit, shaking the entire machine. Warning lights flashed. We're not going to make it in this thing, Luke said. Tari nodded. Then, we abandon it. They launched the emergency eject and were thrown into the air. Parachutes deployed automatically. Drones followed, but the mech exploded below them, sending a wave of fire and smoke that blocked the view. Luke and Tari disappeared into the forest canopy. When Luke hit the ground, he rolled hard. Dirt flew into his face. He tore off his chute and checked his side. No major injuries. He stood fast and looked around. Tari! A branch cracked behind him. She emerged, limping slightly but alive. "You okay?" he asked. "Still breathing." They hugged for just 1 second. Not long. But it was enough. Luke pulled out the portable signal beacon. "The core data's safe. I've got it stored. If I can reach a tall point and send the signal, we'll have a Federation ship come pick us up." Tari lowered her voice. "They'll see I'm not human. I don't care. You should. Your people won't take me in." He looked into her eyes. "Then I won't go with them either." She blinked. But before anything else could be said, a sudden rustling surrounded them. From the trees, figures emerged, Zarelian soldiers in black armor, not regular ones. Elite unit, silent, deadly. Tari stepped in front of Luke. "Stay behind." "Me." He gripped his weapon. "No, we fight together." One of the Zarelians raised his voice. "Tari of Clan Veshel, you are charged with betrayal of your kind." "Surrender now," she growled. "I have not betrayed our people. I have seen what you refused to see." They didn't care. They aimed their weapons. Luke fired first. Blasts lit the woods. Trees shattered. Energy bolts cracked through the air. Tari launched herself at the nearest attacker, her claws glowing. She spun mid-air, slicing one soldier down. Luke ducked a shot and rolled behind a boulder, taking out another. But they were outnumbered. I screamed as a shot burned through her side. She fell. Luke ran to her, dropping to his knees. "Tari," she gritted her teeth, "don't stop fighting." But he didn't move. He held her. The remaining Zarelians closed in, weapons raised. Then a thunderclap. A Federation gunship roared overhead and blasted the clearing. The soldiers scattered as explosions rocked the earth. From the smoke, a team of human soldiers dropped down and surrounded Luke and Tari. One of the officers pointed his rifle. "Is that a Zarelian?" Luke stood, shielding her. "She's with me. She saved the mission, and my life. She's the enemy." "No," Luke said. "Not anymore." The soldiers hesitated. The officer looked at his scanner. "He's carrying the fusion core data. He's the mission." "Then she comes too," Luke said, "or I hand you nothing." A tense moment passed. The officer finally nodded. "Fine, get them both aboard." 2 medics ran forward. Luke helped carry Tari toward the ship. As they lifted off into the sky, Tari looked at him, pale but alive. "I would have died for you," she whispered. Luke held her hand. "And now you'll live with me." The clouds parted as they flew. Into the light, 2 souls who began as enemies, but now carried something stronger than war could destroy. Weeks passed since the battle. The war didn't end, but everything changed the moment Luke and Tari were rescued. The fusion core data exposed something both sides had tried to hide: proof that the war was started by high-ranking leaders on both sides who wanted more power, not peace. The Earth Federation tried to keep Tari in a holding cell at first. But Luke refused to cooperate with the debrief until she was released and treated with respect. Against orders, he stood in front of the council and told the full truth. "She saved me. She helped secure the core. She fought her own people for peace." They didn't like hearing it. But the evidence was solid. The story spread fast. Soldiers began to question things. And that was how change began, not with weapons, but with one story, told by enemies who refused to stay enemies. Now, Luke stood in front of a small cabin deep in the edge zone. A quiet place, far from military bases, far from war. He had built it himself with help. Tari sat outside on the wooden steps, sharpening her blade, just like the first time he saw her. But now her armor was gone. She wore soft clothes, her hair loose in the wind. He walked up behind her. "Sharpening that thing again?" She smiled without looking up. "Old habit. You never know when war returns." Luke sat beside her. "I hope it doesn't." She glanced at him. "And if it does?" He held her hand. Then we face it together. Like before. She was quiet a moment, then leaned her head on his shoulder. I never believed in peace. Not until you. He kissed the side of her head gently. You gave me something to fight for. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sky turn. Gold and blue dot far away. The war still smoldered, but their story had started a fire of its own. One that whispered through soldiers, through commanders, through the young and the tired, that peace was possible. Later that night, as the stars lit up the sky, Luke made a small fire. They shared food, laughed, talked about nothing and everything, and, under those alien stars, he took her hands, looked her in the eyes and asked, "Will you stay here?" Not as a soldier, not as a refugee, just as you. She stared at him, then nodded. "I'll stay, as yours. No more missions. No more orders, no more pretending. Just two souls who had hated. And learned how to love. In a war built on lies. They became the truth. And together, they wrote a new ending. Not with blood, but with hope.